It's not a bad backdrop for the morning commute. And that is the purpose of today's video. I'm actually going to film this in two parts. Part one is in the morning, and it's about 7 o'clock now, 7:15. I am on my way into work, and this is the backdrop, and that's not too shabby, is it? So what I wanted to talk to you about was how I use my commute as a way to fit in some additional training, or just as a part of my actual training plan during the week anyway. Now my commute is about 6 miles, which is probably just the sweet spot. Some days I do wish it was a little bit less, but it's also a very scalable journey. So where I am at the moment is sort of towards the end of my route home, and it's very easy here if I wanted to add in some additional loops, either on the bike or on the trails. What a difference 10 hours makes. So on my way home now, and just to sort of give you my 4 top tips about how to start either run commuting or bike commuting. It doesn't really matter, the principles are the same. But before that, why should you start run commuting or bike commuting? What are the advantages? Well, obviously there are the environmental advantages and the saving money advantages if you're having to pay for train fares or petrol or diesel or whatever it might be. But for me, and I think for most runners, the advantages actually come in the time that you are able to save. And that was one of my main reasons for starting to commute on my own 2 feet, on my own 2 wheels. So tip number 1 is to plan and get organised. If you're just starting out and this is your first sort of journey into run commuting, then I would suggest maybe just picking one day or one trip. Either, probably the trip home would be the easiest, and just start there. Make it as easy as possible and as simple as possible. So what I do is I decide the days that I'm going to commute in on my run, and I'll just make sure I take in enough supplies to get me through the following day or days. So my first tip is to plan ahead and get organised. Okay, so tip number 2 is thinking about your kit, and that is to plan for a few different scenarios. So for example, this morning it was cold but it was sunny. I had a jacket on because I needed it. Now it's not too cold, but it has been quite drizzly and it has been quite wet. So always check the weather forecast, but always have a few backups with you in the form of gloves, hats, lights, etc. So that you have yourself covered for every scenario. It's February at the moment, so it is getting a little bit lighter in the evenings, but I'm still wearing a light because I know that this evening light will drop really, really quickly. So tip number 2, with your kit, pack for a few different scenarios just in case the weather changes or you leave work a bit later than planned and you need to have some light. Okay, tip 3, hygiene. So this is probably one of the biggest barriers for a lot of people when they think about run commuting. If you're lucky enough to have washing facilities at your place of work, shower for example, then you haven't got anything really to worry about. Otherwise, you are probably going to have to work some magic with some baby wipes and a can of Lynx Africa. But it can be done, and again, just takes a little bit of forward planning. Make sure you've got all of those resources and kit in your place of work, ready and waiting for you. Just to make it easier, again, if you're just starting out, or if washing facilities is a real barrier, then just plan it so your commute is your run home or your ride home, and then obviously you haven't got to worry about upsetting everyone in your place of work. So tip number 3 is think about what you need from a hygiene point of view and get yourself prepared and organised with that. Tip number 4 is just to really consider what you were trying to achieve from a training point of view on that run commute day. So for me, I never really plan my run commute days to be particularly hard days or particularly hard sessions, either because they're quite early in the morning and maybe I'm not fully awake, hydrated, fed, or if you've had a long day at work, perhaps you're just not in the right frame of mind for it to be a really hard session. So I always plan the commute runs and commute rides I do just to be easy miles, low heart rate, and just enjoy the fact that you're lucky enough to be outside and you're not sat in a car at traffic lights getting frustrated because you're late home or you're late into work. So my advice would be to just take it easy on those run commutes, and of course if you're feeling good, then you can always turn it into a bit of a session if you want to. Okay, so that's it from me. I think 4 of my sort of beginning tips on how to start either run commuting or ride commuting. If you do have the option or the possibility of doing it, it really is worth it. It can save you chunks of time in your training schedule. Feel free to drop a comment below. Do you run commute? Do you ride commute? Has it had an impact on your training and your work-life balance? Is it something that you'd recommend? If you've enjoyed this video, feel free to hit a like and hit that subscribe button, and I look forward to hearing from you in the comments below.